Zach Burke is back. You can probably tell already. We are live here, 21st floor of the Alico building. The Pete Sousa Show presented by Slovacek's Crawford Austrian Properties. Of course, our good friends at Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. I'm playing hurt today. I had something wrong with my stomach this morning. I don't know what. Zach can surely relate. He's been through a litany of stomach issues recently, so I don't want to sit here and act like I'm really going through it, but I don't know if I ate something or what. Does Chick-fil-A have food poisoning?
I mean, I'm sure you could get it from anywhere, but
Cam, what do you has anybody ever had
I'll research to see if they've had an outbreak ever.
Yeah,
They have that as an extra sauce.
I had some like a McGriddle sausage, and I don't think I totally heated it up, but that stuff's already cooked, right? You can't get sick from it, can you?
Most of the time, I would think so.
Yeah, you can't.
Also McDonald's,
but it wasn't a McGriddle. It was like a McGriddle, like frozen one, What do you see, Zach?
It's just, I found a place where apparently people, I can't believe this is a website. I've discovered a website that's called iwaspoisoned.com, and it's people that just post places that they got sick at. And in the past couple days, there have been some people who got sick at Chick-fil-A.
Oh, really? Around here?
No, that's the thing is one of them's in North Carolina,
Okay.
one of them's in Florida, but it's just a place for people to be like, I don't know how that benefits somebody regionally, but anyway. Yeah.
By the way, to the people that go to that website, it's not all about you, all right? I've been poisoned.com. Like, everybody settle down. That's like, you're making it way more personal than it is. You ate some shit that was contaminated and you got sick. Like, let's call it a day. Here we are, hard at work. Yeah, I had the stomach stuff, led to some elimination. Then I had the heartburn, and I'm starting to feel a little better. I got some water here I'm drinking, so we'll be all right. I wanted to start, I want to talk about some NFL stuff and some NFL coaching stuff and some NFL ownership stuff. Tom Brady officially now part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. And that means that these NFL league rules, which pertain to him being an analyst for Fox, are now like in place. And honestly, if Tom Brady, which we know he is not, but if he's looking for like ways out of some of his responsibilities, this is certainly a good way to do it. Like, I had heard stories that a certain ESPN broadcaster who has since been released was not necessarily, and I didn't hear this from anybody like inside ESPN, or maybe I did. So maybe I shouldn't say it. Well, anyways, you can get fired for skipping production meetings and stuff like that. Eventually, that does not go over well. But part of Tom Brady's new deal is he cannot be a part of broadcast production meetings. And he is not allowed to attend other teams' facilities or practices. That really strips down a huge part of preparation for these games. Now, if you're Tom Brady, you have relationships all over the world. So, and you work your ass off. So certainly he'll be ready for this stuff. But one of the questions I had around the Tom Brady thing was Cam's boy, Kirk Minahan, reported. And I'll tell you, I give my man Minahan props here because he said he had heard it from two sources high up in the Patriots organization that Tom Brady's first order of business, or one of them, would be hiring Bill Belichick to coach the Raiders. Now, right now, the Raiders are in free fall. And I liked the Antonio Pierce hire at the time because I'm a sucker, and Antonio Pierce interned for the Howard Stern show for a day back in 2007, and he came off like he was really awesome. They tried to prank call him a couple times, and he was like just like the nicest guy ever. And I remember Gary Delabate, Howard's producer, and even Howard himself saying like just how affable of a guy Antonio Pierce was and how he really was trying to learn in the time that he was there because he wanted to get into broadcasting. Well, now he's a head coach. He got that bump, right, that interim coaches get a lot of times from teams, and sometimes it's to the detriment of the organization. Like you have an interim coach come in, they win 3-4 games, or maybe they go 2-2 in the last 4 games of the season, but they've got the fire and brimstone or whatever that gets the players to play for them in a finite amount of time. Is that a good permanent solution? So far, it has proven not to be the case with Antonio Pierce, but I mean, a lot of time left. He's just 6 games into this season. So by no means is it time to pull out the carpet from under Antonio Pierce in his first year as a head coach. But you would imagine if the Raiders finish the season like 6-11 or 5-12 or something like that, okay, now the Bill Belichick talk is real. The Bill Belichick talk continues about 90 miles to the north in Frisco today and in the DFW area, because there is a lot of concern during the bye week for the Cowboys. And a lot of that concern is basically, when will Mike McCarthy get fired? And now you get this scuttlebutt about Tom Brady being interested in Bill Belichick. By the way, Mark Davis is like overwhelming majority owner for the Raiders, so he'd have to be on board with any kind of situation. And I love the Raiders because of Al Davis, the autumn wind, all that stuff. At the end of the day, though, we're just analyzing this. So here we go now to Jerry Jones and his resolution for the problem. Again, Cowboys 3-3 going into the bye week. That record is not indicative of how they're playing and who this team is right now from what we've seen on the field. They're going to get some players back. They're going to get Micah Parsons back after the bye. They got a couple cornerbacks that are going to be back healthy. So they will, they'll get some pop from a personnel perspective. But by all accounts, this team is not good. They can't stop a nosebleed on defense. They've been outscored 75-0 in the first half of their last 4 home games. Like, there is major concern around this team. And our boy Matt Mosley talked with Colin Cowherd yesterday, and I listened to the whole interview because I'm like a Matt Mosley super fan, and I am captivated by powerful people and how they handle themselves. And Jerry Jones is one of those people who is like uber successful, but sometimes these uber successful people, they behave like toddlers, and it has like major ripple effects throughout an organization, a team, a city, a country, the globe, you name it. We've seen it all happen. And by no means does this mean like Jerry Jones is a bad guy, but he's a temperamental owner who is, his team is in, as he put it, the proverbial Esser, and he's 82 years of age. And now is the point where, let's go back to Matt Mosley. Matt Mosley's talking to Colin Cowherd yesterday, and Colin asked, what do you think it would take to Jerry? Mosley said this: Jerry is not accustomed to paying a lot of money for coaches. And he's really, you look at his track record, he doesn't take big swings with coaches really, but he did with Bill Parcells. And now we're moving toward a similar situation where he could ultimately take a big swing and go after Bill Belichick. And that is an environment, knowing Jerry Jones, like we all know him, right? Or knowing him very well, like Mosley knows him, he would hate that. There's a reason why a lot of these owners didn't hire Bill Belichick this past offseason, especially Arthur Blank in Atlanta. And part of the reason is there's a lot of just Belichickian stuff that comes with Bill Belichick. First of all, you win. So how about that? I mean, that's pretty big. But second of all, if you're an owner, you're just not going to be that involved. You'll be involved somewhat, but Bill Belichick has a way of doing things, and Bill Belichick has a comfort in his own skin. And he's to the point in his life where he's not going to acquiesce to an owner when it comes to football stuff. He's not going to acquiesce to an owner when it comes to your presence around the locker room, probably. I'm sure it's not as bad as we've heard. Like the one rumor going around when Belichick was interviewing, I remember, again, specifically last offseason with the Falcons, was that he had like some kind of tape up that was like a caution tape that the owner couldn't go beyond. That was put to bed by a lot of folks around the Patriots. But that was the type of stuff that we were hearing. And that was the kind of stuff that was contributing to certain owners being like, I don't want that. I paid so much money for this team. And it's a window into these owners and why they own these organizations. They just want to be a part of the fun, really, a lot of times. And that will really kind of suck for fans sometimes because you get owners that just kind of want to be around it, right? And they want to have all the toys and they want to be able to walk down to the locker room, with the sheik of some country and say, hey, come on, walk in. Let me show you everybody. That's what Jerry Jones did one time with Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy was pissed apparently and kicked him out of there. And that was one of the things that led reportedly to their split, one of the many things. So the involvement of the Raiders now, and even these rumors, which Jerry Jones is at the owners' meetings right now, I'm sure he can get the lowdown on what's true and what's not around these rumors. But that's another thing that could accelerate the decision-making progress for the Cowboys. If you hear that the Raiders and Tom Brady are interested in Bill Belichick and bringing him to Las Vegas, all of a sudden now you're like, whoa, I got to make a move. And if you're Bill Belichick, you don't have to look much further than one of your old allies and a guy who you could say maybe is his mentor in Bill Parcells. Parcells had a run with Jerry Jones and with the Cowboys. And through Parcells and experiences of his own, Bill Belichick respects Jerry Jones. He's gone on record saying that. And Mosley was talking to Cowherd yesterday, and Mosley was saying, I think that Jerry loves that somebody of Bill Belichick's ilk is walking around knowing or walking around saying that, he respects Jerry Jones. That Jerry Jones absolutely loves that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this. There's a couple real big names, right, being kicked around in the offseason. You got Tom Brady. You got the Las Vegas Raiders. It's an NFL. You wouldn't necessarily call it an institution, but it's a historic franchise. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, another historic franchise. And you got the Hall of Famer like Bill Belichick and another Hall of Famer like Jerry Jones, who are all being talked about. And they're going to be at the forefront of big-time decisions made during the NFL offseason, and maybe some of these decisions could be made before the offseason simply because time would be of the essence. And, if you're going to pull the trigger on a big name like Bill Belichick, you don't want to be the last one standing there with a gun when somebody else next to you has fired. How about the Cowboys as far as on the field is concerned? Troy Aikman on his – this is great. You talk about local radio. But Troy Aikman made an interesting comment about the Dallas Cowboys wide receivers just about an hour and a half ago on local radio in Dallas. And for sure, it seemed like he was taken up for Dak Prescott. And again, remember now, Dak Prescott, this does not happen in the NFL. It doesn't happen very often. Dak Prescott reportedly has gone to Mike McCarthy and other coaches with the Cowboys and said, hey, we're not practicing hard enough. And Troy Aikman and what he said sort of speaks to that when he talked about the Cowboys receivers. He said that their routes are terrible. This is Troy Aikman talking from what he's seen. He said, I think the routes are terrible. I think they run terrible routes. And I've thought that beyond this year. And I think CD's got to improve in his route running, CeeDee Lamb. And Aikman went on to say this morning on Dallas radio, and as a quarterback, if you're not certain where guys are going to be consistently, it is very hard to play that position. So that's like a glaring concern, right? When you look at the fact that as a quarterback, you do, and hearing Tom Brady talk about it this past week, it reminds you of just how important being in sync with your wide receiver is. Brady talked about when you have a wide receiver and you see him plant to break off what initially looks like a 9 route, like a fly. And when he breaks that off, right when he plants his foot, if he's really good at playing wide receiver and he plants hard, the moment you see him plant hard like that, you're going to unleash it, right? And heave the ball right at your receiver, and you know where he's going to be. And he was actually talking about Jared Goff and a Detroit wide receiver. And he said, they have something going on there. There's like a connective tissue that we can't see. And it seems like the Cowboys, you can't see it because it's not there. And Aikman is another person who has indicated that, this is not a good look for the Cowboys for where they are right now. So I don't know. They're going to come out of that bye week on a Sunday night game at San Francisco, and it could be scary. I love the one thing that Mosley said when he was talking to Cowherd. I can't do his impression. We'll get Cam maybe to do it later on, but he told Cowherd that Cowherd was like, "What's the thing that annoys Jerry the most?" And he said, "When the Cowboys, it's happened before that they've gotten flexed out of an NBC game late in the year, like the Sunday night game or late like 4:30 game Eastern time. Like he gets batshit crazy." And like, because you just don't do that to the Cowboys. And even Cowherd was saying, the Cowboys are becoming a crappy team to watch right now. I think, in my perspective, and Dan Ingham's going to be here, I'll ask him about this to get another take on this as somebody who's a fan and lives in this area of the country. But like, I think now more than ever, there are Cowboy fans everywhere. Like, even as they suck, I do not think, and maybe it's because of the First Take shows and idiots like me talking about Jerry Jones, but like, there is certainly no lack of interest for this team, even as they suck. Now it's like, I don't know. I'd have to look at the ratings, but I'm sure they were spectacular for the Detroit game, even though a lot of people bailed on it later. And I can promise you Sunday night when they take on the 49ers, that'll probably be one of the highest rated Sunday night football games of the season. And when you're talking about Sunday night football, those ratings are always lofty. It's the number one television show in America, like every year during the fall. So keep that in mind. Not sports, shows, okay? Not live events, shows. We move now to something that's not quite at the forefront, but that I found super interesting. The report today that the Mavs have finalized where you're going to be able to watch their games when the season starts on October 24th. They start the season off against the Spurs. Now, that's going to be a national TV game, but the Mavs games, this is super interesting. We knew they were going to be over the air in some capacity, but more than 70 games, 70 Dallas Mavericks games, you will be able to watch in your local TV market over the air. So what does that mean? That basically means like, and from what I read in the Dallas Morning News this morning, they won't be on like Channel 8 if you live in Dallas, right? They'll have your regular programming there. If you want to watch like CSI or whatever the hell airs on Channel 8, you'll still be able to watch it. But there's going to be a Channel 29, as I understand it, where these games will be carried, and that will be available. I mean, it was basically on every – I was actually curious. Let me see, because I watch most of my stuff on Hulu. But the article said, so for weeks, local fans have wondered, this is the morning news, whether their cable, satellite, or streaming service will carry the new Channel 29. That's where you can watch these Mavs games. The Mavs say Channel 29 will be available through these providers: AT&T Uverse TV, Charter Spectrum, DirecTV, Dish, Frontier, Fiber, Keller, Fubo, Grande, OneSource, and Optimum, and then Geas. I can't say that. Now, Cam or Zach, help me out here. Does that mean if I have Spectrum cable, will I be able to watch this Channel 29 on Hulu? No. So if I have Hulu, am I out?
Yeah, it's usually, well, at least from what I know in these instances, is it's usually across like the local airwaves there. So if you're like in Dallas,
okay,
you have access to it. But because I have, but like if I have a subscription in the past, not saying it's worked with this, but if a local,
okay, you ready for this?
Puts it on, go ahead.
So no, here to what you're saying now, you guys have moved me into this category. For fans who did not subscribe to any of those providers. Now I have Spectrum, which brings me Hulu. So maybe it'll be part of my, because on Hulu I have Tegna, Waco. So here's my question. I think it will be because it's the Tegna affiliate here in Waco, because I see that's KCEN, I think. So so I should be able to get them. So KCEN should provide Channel 29, right? I think that's it. Now, if I'm one of those idiots, I don't want to say idiots, but if I'm one of those people, because these people are not idiots, I take that back. But fans who don't have any of those providers can still access Channel 29 with use of a digital antenna, a one-time purchase that costs $25 to $55. I even saw that the Spurs or another, I think it's the Spurs or another NBA team that has a similar deal. they're giving these away at their home at their opener.
The antennas?
Yeah, so they're not like if you walk through the door, they're not handing it to Zach Burke as like a bobblehead, but you have to write down if you want it. You write down like all your stuff, and they will see to it that you get one sent to you. I think this is after now with all the logistics. This is so freaking smart. This is so smart, so smart, so smart for these NBA teams, and by the NBA, and honestly by my old boss, Great Television and Tegna. They're involved with a lot of this stuff to bring these folks all these games. So one, you know, it's going to be like it's going to be right there for you. Like when you turn on your TV or whatever, these games are going to be right there. There was a Mavs game at the end of the season, and I'm sure they were testing this out. And this actually answers the question I had earlier. There was a Mavs game that aired here locally in Central Texas on KCEN, and it was like right there. Like I turned on my Hulu, and right away it was like, you know, you can watch the Mavs. And like for somebody who lives in Central Texas, like you would really have to fish around to try to find the Mavs. Like this is all over. 14 million people will be able to access this. 14 million people across the state of Texas. I mean, originally, they thought it was going to be 10 million. Now it's 14 million people will be able to access Mavs games. So that's like a really cool, beautiful thing that I think if you're an NBA fan, you got to be pumped up for. A couple other NBA notes, and then Dan Ingham is going to join us here in segment 2. Was there ever a worse pick than Markelle Fultz? I don't think there has been. I was thinking about it this morning. I mean, I really don't. He was taken like that. Do you guys have one off the top of your head, Cam? Do you have a worse pick than Markelle Fultz?
Anthony Bennett.
Anthony Bennett. Okay, Bennett was worse. Good call.
You know, if you want to talk a little bit more about this, I can do that in the last segment.
Okay, we'll do it in the last segment. Yeah. It's a good discussion. Okay, another Sixers flop. That's a teaser for our last segment with Cam to talk about Fultz. And I was listening to Dan Patrick this morning, and Dan Patrick had a great question. He said, in any way, does Ben Simmons have a comeback left in him? Now, I'll answer that question for you. No way. The only argument you could make that he has a decent year this year, he's making $40 million this year, okay? That'll get you pissed off if you're going to work right now, or if you're working and you're doing something like landscaping or anything difficult that actually is difficult, like tough on your body and hard, and every day maybe you're dreading to do it. Ben Simmons is making $40 million. And I think we would probably all say he's not earning it. Here's why I think, and I hope he does. I'm not saying Ben Simmons is a bad guy, but for the body of work that he has shown us so far, Ben Simmons has shown very little accountability. And if he doesn't have mental health problems, then he has health problems, like physically. Mental health is no joke, and it's very, very serious. And I don't know that Ben Simmons has ever said like, hey, I need to figure this out, or maybe he has. I don't know, but a lot of his time away from the sport has been because, you know, he's had things going on, back trouble. And a lot of it, has been a mind thing. I mean, I will remember forever when the Sixers had an elimination game against the Hawks, the Trae Young year in the second round, when, you know, Ben Simmons had a wide open layup late in the game, and he passed to someone for like a 3-pointer because he was scared to shoot. He had a major fear of shooting the basketball. This was a guy who was, by all accounts, the best player coming into the NBA when he was a rookie. It's been like total free fall for him. And the fact that he's like still around and on rosters is still kind of eye-opening. And I do not think Ben Simmons will have a comeback. I would love for him to prove me wrong, because everybody loves a good story. But until like Ben Simmons is out there publicly tweeting stuff other than pictures of him with no shirt on at an off-season workout, tweeting stuff like, hey, can't wait to get down to business this year, spent a lot of time working on my mental health, I'm ready to go, a clean bill of health, and I'm ready to be humble and hungry. You know, that would speak to me as someone who's been around the game a little bit and been around life a little bit. All right, one last thing. I can't believe how bad Stanford sucks at football. I can't believe it. I saw the line this morning. Now, SMU is like a top 25 team, but Stanford is a 16-point underdog. I'll give either of you guys $50. I'll Venmo it to you right now. Zach, don't move. Cam, this is $50. Who's the head coach at Stanford? All right. And Tim Taylor. I had no idea who he was.
The Tool Man, yeah.
Sorry, Troy Taylor. It's Troy Taylor. Which I'm not saying I don't know what his deal is as a coach. You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea. He could be the next Vince Lombardi, but, like, we have no clue what's going on with Stanford. And this is on the heels of Jim Harbaugh was their coach from 2007 to 2011 or 2012. And then David Shaw was their coach, who did a great job. And you got rid of David Shaw, I guess, because it was time to get rid of David Shaw. But, like, what has happened to Stanford football? Like, I don't know. But they're a 16-point dog against SMU this year. If you really want to find out, take a trip up to Dallas. You can watch them. And I guess they're probably going to lose. So, look, it's 127. Man, that was a great first segment. I was ready to go. For a guy who's sick, man, you know, I'm like I got the Bruins pictures behind me, but Eddie Pinckney played for Villanova. He had a flu in the championship they won in '85. So I dreamed about Raleigh Massimino last night. Anyways, good dreams, good times. We'll be back with Dan Ingham. If we're not, we'll be back with Pete Sousa. Stay with us. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.